Hello, YouTube. This is the Galley La Podcast, and we're gonna talk about this boring chapter this week. One Piece 1000, chapter 1079, the Red Hair Pirates and Emperor's Crew. And the biggest part of this chapter was that the Germa 66 cover story has finally ended at 1079. And please like and subscribe also if you haven't. All right.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't notice that about the cover story. But I was too busy focused on other stuff in this chapter.
So, I guess we'll get through this. Basically, from what people were theorizing with the Seraphim and Desire, this was just basically, she asked the Boa Seraphim to turn her in the stone, so she wasn't suspected. They haven't really showed how she was able to override, per se, the other Vegapunks, but, so we basically just kind of got some of the gaps filled in.
Yeah. Well, we had that theory, or I think we brought it up, that she might have already been given, like, the position of, like, a celestial dragon, so that would overwrite the Vegapunks. But, that doesn't seem to be the case here, because she's, completely, they want to get rid of her. So, so I think that it's interesting that she wants, who was it? So she wants to keep the Cypher Pole agents alive, and Vegapunk and her, and that's it. So I don't know what her plan is, because she also tells S-Snake something else that she wants to do, and we can only theorize what that's going to be like. What it's going to be.
For sure. So that basically sums that up. We see Sentomaru kind of tired, exhausted with all the pacifistas and the people evacuating. And now we have the Blackbeard Pirates. So you having a thought on this? So I'll let you take that.
So I think you, Akainu Fanboy, already thought that Blackbeard defeated Law already. You just want Law's head on the ship.
Hey, guys can hope at least, right?
But I think because there's so many, they've name dropped like Ohara so many times, I think it would be interesting if Aokiji was on the ship.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Because that would kind of tie it together. And maybe even that's how, like, the Straw Hats escape, especially if, like, because, like, now the Saint Garcia and Kizaru and the Marines are all coming, and
Kizaru, Aokiji clash potentially.
But I mean, the distraction with the Blackbeard Pirates could be a way that Luffy and everyone gets away, like their distraction. But I mean, this is just, did we ever talk about theorize that like Blackbeard would be showing up here? Because we thought he was still busy with Law.
We said that in the last thing, like who's gonna rescue Luffy, and this is gonna be a disastrous thing because we have Shanks occupied, Big Mom, Kaido MIA, and then Blackbeard's occupied. But yeah, if Ogishi shows up, that makes sense. But if we're really just gonna repeat Ohara in this sense, then Sakazuki may just show up too.
Yeah.
Because that would be like the fitting touchtail, just to have him go at it again, know?
I don't know if... I'm just going to say, I feel like this arc is very well paced, but there's so much going on compared to Wano, where it was like pulling teeth trying to get through it.
And I love how hype it is. He just shows 2 panels of the Blackbeard Pirates, like this the ship, and you're just losing your mind.
Yeah.
You're freaking. It's so well done.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately we have a break next week, but I mean there's a lot in this chapter to hold us over for a couple weeks, because we get to the main part of the chapter. And I'll let you take it.
So I did think it was kind of funny and fitting for Shanks' character that he was defending a bunch of weak pirate crews and everything. I kind of thought how that was kind of interesting. In a way, he kind of plays like an inverse world government when you think he brings order to the pirate world in a way that the world government brings order to the government world in a way, the nations in a way, to defend the weak. And he's kind of like defending the weak pirates here. Now, Killer says like, hey, there's some big names among them. And so I'm wondering if he's referencing the Gaggy characters and that they have this fake like high name status when they're really crap, or if there are actually big names there. I tend to incline to the former, is that Shanks makes their reputations big to make them seen powerful so that they're protected, basically,
So Shanks has like a whole pirate fleet full of buggy tier characters.
Well, no, then they'd be powerful. They're buggy tier characters.
Yeah,
Buggy actually has. Well, I mean, that's kind of the mirror image too. Shanks is like a crap fleet, while Buggy has a really good fleet.
Yeah, but
right.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that he was also very protective of them.
Yeah.
Because still, Shanks's character, especially after this chapter, is kind of an enigma, even more so, just based on his actions.
Yeah, and how he reacted towards his crew getting harmed wasn't particularly cool. He did take it the right way, I guess you could say. He did just pass it off. And you kind of know, like, there's things getting a little trouble-y here because they're hyping up Kid, like, oh, he has a big bounty, And usually when the character that gets hyped up is the one that's going to get annihilated. And it was kind of interesting, though, that they're asking for any news on Blackbeard. And the last we heard is that he left the pirate island. So he doesn't know what's going on with Blackbeard and Law and now Garp and Kobe and Helmeppo and all that shit. That hasn't even reached them yet, But
yeah,
Oh, sorry, go.
I was going to say, I thought it was interesting that Shanks brought up that he was going to... Blackbeard was potentially going to show up in Wano.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So potentially everyone could have convened, all the emperors could have convened at Wano at some point. And that kind of explains why Shanks is there. Shanks might have been running like interference like he did with Marineford, where he drove Kaido off. Like he could have done that with Blackbeard at Wano. Which
instead he went for Boa, and also he went for Pudding inadvertently too, right?
Yeah.
So in a way he probably predicted Shanks trying to restore order, and then he took advantage of going elsewhere, where he knew for sure Shanks wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all right. I was hyped up initially when Kid brings out his big cannon. Damn pug. I think that's very into character for him to just go top level. And we see Shanks use some type of future sight, from what we can tell. And he's gonna potentially do some really, really insane damage, and that didn't happen. So
yeah. Well, one thing that I do want to say is I forget if I think it was in like a special handout that they did in the Japanese cinemas for Film Red, but I think because Oda wrote something for it, and he said like Shanks was the killer of observation hockey. Like no one could get a read on him for anything. So I thought that was interesting, and that kind of explains why Kid obviously didn't see this coming. But yeah, it was definitely future sight that he was using. And Kid gets one shot by Shanks, and I had heard that this chapter was going to be crazy, but this is just... I think we were right putting Shanks at number 1 on our power tier list. Because, like, comparing this to... This is a... I guess they said earlier, like, has Kid had enough time to heal since Wano?
Yeah.
But this is like a full-strength Kid with his strongest attack getting one-shotted by Shanks. That, like, Kid was fighting Big Mom and Kaido. Like, that just shows how strong Shanks is.
Right. Yeah. You know, when I was initially going through it, I thought it was so much of a one-sided slaughter that basically I thought, like, this was a fake out in a way. Kid and Killer weren't down because of how they were just voluntarily offering up their poneglyphs, you know? But then, like, kind of at the same time, it's like what we've been saying. It's like Kid is Luffy without plot armor, but in a way, I see one similarity with Luffy getting annihilated by Kaido with Wano, you know. And how I see this though, because Shanks doesn't really downplay him though. He calls him a big shot, right? Okay, so this is either the most elaborate, crazy-ass fake-out that we've ever seen, 1. Or 2, I think he's going to be the one that kills Shanks by the end of the series.
Kid?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because the narrator said the Kid crew... on this day in the New World by Elbaf, the Kid crew, led by Eustace Captain Kid, a man worth 3 billion, was completely eradicated. A decisive victory. So this makes it seem, this isn't a fake out, this happened. And if it's expressed in an event this way, so monumental, and there's build up, I think it's going to be a similar Luffy takes down Kaido type of situation too.
Maybe. I mean, we did kind of get the whole, like, Kid was defeated by Kaido, and then Kid swore revenge, but it didn't really amount to much.
Yeah, but we didn't see it on screen.
Yeah. And one thing I will say is that this is... It's fun to do the meme, like, useless Captain Mid, but...
Yeah.
Just going by how Shanks reacted to him pulling out the damned punk, like, he went straight into action, and you can see, like, through his future sight how much, like, devastation he would have taken out, like, multiple ships with that attack. So, I mean, that's a feat there.
It looks like Shanks is bringing out one of the strongest moves too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's the same move that Roger did to Odin.
So, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't think it looks terrible. This does hype up Shanks, don't get me wrong. And it, I don't know. I go back. I don't know. What are your thoughts on, like, do you think Kid's gonna get his revenge, or is he completely out of the story now?
Oh, I don't think he's completely out of the story, but I mean, this is a very devastating defeat. Like, his whole ship is destroyed by Dorian and Broggy.
And so that's why I'm more inclined, because he got destroyed so bad, he's gonna get a big W later on, And also, like, whenever the narrator talks, so-and-so got defeated, this was a historical day. It's not like, like some nobody random getting one-shotted, right? This is like a historical thing that he got taken down. Which means, like, he's probably still relevant later on in the story, that he gets his payback in a way,
Yeah. Which is why I don't think that he's out of the story, but I don't know. You have a lot of people on your list that you want Shanks to be taken out by.
Look. I'm just saying, this chapter made me more solidified that I think Kid's gonna get his revenge. Because we have the theme of the old crew school getting ripped down by from their thrones, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And to be disrespected in such a phenomenal way is crazy to me. Now, obviously, Blackbeard stayed for Luffy, so if Blackbeard took out Law, I don't think that really burst that theme there. And technically, Blackbeard's a part of the new generation still, right? You know?
Mm-hmm.
While Shanks isn't. And that's kind of how I see it. I think Oda humiliated him on purpose to set up an event in the future with this.
Yeah. And it is interesting. Yeah, you did bring up the similarities between Kaido one-shotting Luffy at the beginning.
And could we theoretically see Law, Kid, Luffy all getting KO'd this arc and losing?
Potentially. I mean, that's one way to like kind of drive up the stakes, but I'm just thinking about just the future, the way that the story's kind of ramping up so fast right now. I think that it would make maybe not Luffy, but maybe the other two. Because Luffy kind of has to go. He has to get to Elbaf, so I don't know. I don't know what point I was trying to make there, but
well, so from A-Kid, we have indications that something really bad's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And right here, we get parallel case. Something bad happens to Kid, and it was a historic event.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a Blackbeard, we could pretty easily see that too. You know, where it's like, yeah, it's predictable that Kid was gonna get wiped out. And it's probably just as predictable, if not, I'd say more predictable, that Law gets wiped out too. You know?
I don't know. At least Law was putting up a fight.
Well, I'm not talking about in terms of strength. I'm talking about in terms of plot significance in the story. I think Blackbeard's more essential that he doesn't lose compared to Shanks not losing. I think that's more integral to the series, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, if having these three get such massive W's in the last arc, and then to be humiliated in the next would be an interesting literary device right here. All three rise together, and then they fall together. Kind of like Sabaody, right?
Mm-hmm.
They come up, they're getting the title Supernova, they're doing good, and then they all get humiliated. And this is also a Sabaody type of arc too, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the Sentomaru, Kuma, Kizaru, we can go through the parallels again, right?
Yeah.
They're going up, and then they get humiliated again. Mm-hmm. Same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it could be the inverse kind of a Sabaody because Kid and Law made it off of that unscathed, and maybe it's their time to fall and Luffy to continue on.
Yeah, that's a good point. They climb out of the ditch, and I think I get it. Luffy's an emperor, but at the same time, I still feel like he needs to be humbled again. You know, like Odin was humbled against Roger, for example. You know, this just can't be like an easy walk in the park. Like, this is like the end here, and it needs to actually still be difficult, and there still needs to be pain and loss in a way. You know,
so
Luffy feels invincible right now.
Well, just by this chapter alone, I still feel that Luffy still has a ways to go, because if this is what I expect of, like, when people say like Yonko tier, this is what I'm expecting, and that's kind of how I think that's how Big Mom was portrayed originally. But then I don't know if she was nerfed or whatever when fighting with Kaido, but her portrayal wasn't as impressive. But especially if like Akainu is like this, or any of the elders or Eam or anything. But yeah, so do you think that Kid's gonna be like rescued or like held captive by the red-haired pirates now? Just so he doesn't like die in the water.
Yeah, I could see him being chained up in Elbaf somewhere again, you know? And
because Luffy has to make it to Elbaf.
Yeah, because one point I do want to bring up though is, so you would say Shanks is over Blackbeard because Blackbeard couldn't do this to Law in a way like Shanks could have did this to Kid, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I think we can acknowledge there's still plenty of growth for Luffy, but also I'd say for some of the villains like Akainu and Blackbeard at this point.
I would say more Blackbeard than Akainu, just because I don't know if he's lost any edge just being in his office for the time skip, you know what I mean? Or
yeah,
but because I feel like he was going like one-on-one with Whitebeard, so I think he's pretty at it, and he's part of like, even so, like you said, like he's part of the older generation, whereas even though Blackbeard is older, he's considered part of this new generation. So Blackbeard I could see potentially getting stronger.
Yeah, I think Akai is the same series like where if you find someone powerful, you become more powerful, or is that I just showed it in general? But like, yeah, Akaido, obviously his strongest opponent was Whitebeard, and then he fought Aokiji, right? So obviously you get more experience in fighting from that kind of thing. Because so whether it's Kid, whether it's Blackbeard, someone will eventually take down Shanks, you know. We're just not sure how that's gonna manifest exactly, you know. I don't know. This does look a lot more repressive than Kaido Big Mom, though. And if you assume that Shanks is the strongest person in the world, okay, then fine. This is your agenda here. Or it also implies that there's other characters in the verse that are comparatively more powerful here, you know.
I don't know who else would be at this level besides like, I don't know, just based on what I've seen so far.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, obviously Blackbeard wasn't like this fighting Portugal's ace, right?
No.
You know what I mean? But like, clearly he's gone up, you know?
Yeah, but I feel like that's all, he's just we've had this discussion before about him relying just on like his devil fruits and everything.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's just do some party thoughts right here. I have 3 questions for you. Do you think Law, or 2 questions, I guess. Will Law be KO'd in a similar way, and will Luffy not necessarily be KO'd or face a similar degree of defeat that Kid did end this arc? Those 2 questions.
So I would say probably a 70% chance that yes, Law is going to be KO'd, but I think we'll find out at the end of the arc because we haven't been cutting back to him as we have with Kid, and I feel like that would be something to save toward the end of the arc. And if that's the case, then Luffy should find out about it after he escapes Egghead, which means that he gets out, maybe not unharmed, but he escapes Egghead with everyone. So that's what I think is going to happen.
Is Vegapunk coming with them?
Maybe.
Because that's what I would qualify as a W or an L during this arc.
Yeah. I don't know. That's 50-50. I can't make a call at this time. But
okay.
But I will say, Mr. Morge did a very good video about what could potentially be in the future with like the final war and everything, because the way that the like because Vegapunk's been researching the Void Century, and with the the Labosphere or whatever, he could potentially disseminate that information to the world, and that could be the way that people know about it. So that information could get out, and it could also with Vegapunk also dying, so that could potentially happen as well. So I had just one more point to bring up.
Okay.
So they offer Shanks the road poneglyphs, and it doesn't really look like he took them, or I'm not sure, which is interesting.
But he said he wanted them to at the same time, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, all you see is him kind of jump off the boat. So I'm not sure if they took it, because like you said, he wanted them. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I am very hype with what's gonna come. Yeah. But and it was nice to see Dory and Broggy again doing their move.
I feel less bad as a Sanji fan now. When I look at the kid community, I'll just say that much.
Yeah,
I've always been getting some good representation lately, and I think this is more humiliating than anything Sanji's ever experienced.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm very hype for what's gonna come next.
Same. And with that, we will release some content next week. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. Leave your comments below what's going to happen. We'll probably post a poll asking that question I asked Geboss to all of you. Akainu Fanboy here, and that guy's Geboss. See you later. Peace.
Bye.